Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Say No to Downtime. I'm Balaji Venkatraman. I go by Balaji. I work at Hewlett Packard Enterprise in the Mission Critical Service Division. I'm product manager for HPE Serviceguard for Linux, a high availability and disaster recovery offering that helps you ensure 5 nines of uptime for your mission critical workloads. In today's session specifically, we're going to be looking at some of the exciting new features we have launched as a part of our all-new Service Guard for Linux Premium Edition for your SAP HANA environments. Right. So moving along. So HPE Service Guard for Linux Premium Edition. Right. So this is what we are launching in April 2021. It's an industry-first capability for SAP HANA multi-target environments. Before I get into detail about what our launch is about and what it brings to the market, let me first spend some time walking through why should you have high availability and disaster recovery? Why should you have business continuity, right? So as we all know today, IT infrastructure is critical to the smooth running of any business, right? All businesses heavily rely on their IT infrastructure. This was the era of data, and the next one is the era of data insights. So everybody is reliant on the data to be able to run their business smoothly, look for efficiency, and be more profitable, right? And what is the cost of downtime, right? So a lot of times customers ask me, why should we avoid from downtime, or what is the cost of downtime, right? So just to give you a perspective of what is the cost of downtime, this is a survey here which IDC conducted, right? They surveyed close to 300 companies, or I should say 350 companies, right? And they asked them this question. They asked them, what is the average cost of downtime per hour for you, right? So the companies ranged from small companies with 1,000 employees to companies with more than 10,000 employees, right? And what did the survey find is that for almost 1/3 of the companies, right? For 1/3 of all the companies that were surveyed, the cost of downtime was $25,000 per hour, right? And for 1/6 of the companies, it was as high as $100,000 per hour. So you can just imagine downtime is an expensive affair, right? For every hour your systems are not running, you're paying, your reputation is getting damaged, your customers lose trust, and there is economic consequences, right? And we always tell our customers, it's important to invest in the right set of hardware, the right set of software, and it's also important to invest in a business continuity solution that can provide you the right levels of availability that is required for your businesses, right? And as a survey found out, for most customers, the cost of paying for their business continuity solutions was covered even in one single downtime event, right? So for many customers, avoiding a single downtime event could easily pay for the cost of protecting against it, right? So it's invest to protect rather than paying for your mistakes or paying for not having the right systems in. So with that said, let me quickly tell you a little about Service Guard for Linux, right? So Service Guard for Linux has a rich history. We have been available in the Linux, the Service Guard for Linux offering for the last close to 10 years now, and we have a rich history. The Service Guard product came from the HPUX or the Mission Critical Unix world, right? And we brought all our IPs to the Linux world. And there are three core principles that drive the product. First is to maximize your application uptime. So in the end, what is most important for our customers is that your business applications can continue to run, right? Your hardware could be up, your software is fine, but if your application is down, what's the point, right? So application targeted high availability is what Service Guard does, right? And it provides maximum uptime for your application by first helping you recover from an unplanned downtime, which is basically a failure event, and do it as quickly as possible, right? And as we do it, make sure that we never compromise on data integrity, right? Your data integrity is assured, your data is never corrupted during an automatic failover, right? And we also help you manage your maintenance downtime, right? Which is actually a large chunk of time, right? Your maintenance downtime, how can we manage it efficiently? And finally, the real strength of Service Guard comes from its application awareness. Service Guard for Linux is intimately aware of your application, right? It knows your application inside out. For something like SAP HANA, we have such tight integration, and it understands the states of the application and what is the right failover reaction right? Or the right um, measure that has to be taken to recover your application in the case of failures. So moving on, Service Guard for Linux had 3 editions up until now. We had Base, Advanced, and Enterprise, and now we have the all-new Service Guard for Linux Premium. What this brings is unique capability for SAP HANA multi-target environments, which can help you now extend your availability, not just within a data center, but across data centers with multiple redundant HANA tiers. So I'll talk now about what this brings, right? What is Service Guard for Linux Premium Edition, right? And what capability does it bring, right? And how it helps our customers. So before I say that, right, let's take a look at what happens in customer scenarios today, right? And what top challenges does a customer face today? So HANA today runs several mission critical deployments in the world, right? I mean, ERP, business warehousing for several large businesses. And predominantly in HANA deployments, what we have seen up until now is that they have typically a primary and a secondary node that forms the HA pair. Whenever the primary fails, automatically it's taken over to your secondary, right? Which is shown here in this slide with A and B. But then in several industries, it's a mandate to have more than one level of redundancy. So you need another standby database, a third and a fourth standby, right? And today, all the solutions in the market can only offer you something where the external instance is handled manually, right? It cannot be handled automatically in your business continuity plan, and it has to be manually handled with some sort of customized scripting, maybe, in some cases. And what is the risk of doing that, right? And we're talking about large databases, mission critical environments. And what are the problems in doing that, right? It may sound easy. Okay, I have a HA which is automatic, and I'm just managing my DR manually, right? But what is the problem in doing that, right? So let's look at what is involved in doing this operation, right? So I've divided this into operational phases for a customer, right? So as a customer, first, there's your normal operation, right? Which means nothing is wrong. You're running in your production, everything is right. And you have a DR which is sitting outside, right? Manually managed, right? Now, somebody has to monitor it, right? Somebody has to keep checking whether the data is being correctly replicated to a DR. And that's a 24/7 job. I mean, you can try to do it manually. You can try to go and check every hour, but it's not feasible. It doesn't scale well for large environments, right? So first, who is monitoring it during a normal operation when nothing is wrong? Then comes the point, right? What happens when a failure occurs, right? And this is when everybody is stressed, right? There's a lot of stress in the system. There's so much pressure for the IT admin to bring back everything, without losing data as quickly as possible, right? And now imagine that you would have to do a bunch of manual steps to recover, right? Several studies have shown that operator errors is the #1 cause of downtime during such failure instances, right? Because the pressure in the system is high, and you're doing a bunch of manual steps, and it's always error prone, right? So then there's a whole task of ensuring that the DR is current, it's meeting your RPO needs, and then you're shutting down any dev and QA instances, and then you're doing a recovery, right? It's a lot of work. And it's fraught with risks when you do it manually. And then you have to operate from the DR itself, which also is not easy, right? What happens if something goes wrong in the DR? You don't have anything to fall back on, right? How do you protect them? You're talking about like extended downtime, right? Which can be really catastrophic for your business. And then once your primary comes back, how do you go back, right? If you see, it's a complex set of problems if you try to manage it manually, where you only do your HA automatic and your DR is outside, right? And the DR is a mandate, in fact, a compliance for several industries across their geographies, right? So what do we bring now with Service Guard for Linux Premium is the industry first fully automatic HA in DR solution for SAP HANA, where you can not just have a primary HA pair, which is fully automatic, but you can have complete DR capabilities, all managed automatically, right? So what happens is we move from the left to the right, where you can have now your primary, which is A, one secondary, which is B, that may be your HA pair, and then you can have 2 more standbys, C and D, in your DR data center, right? And all of this is today managed automatically by Service Guard, right? And this is a unique capability, right? And we are industry first in bringing this capability to you, right? And so, and what does this do, right? I mean, yes, it's exciting. We made everything automatic. So let's just go back to the same slide where we saw what the customer problem was. And now let's see what it does for the customer, right? And what value it brings. So if you go back and just try to compare this again through the phases of operation, right? So first, during normal operation, instead of somebody manually checking it and maintaining it, Serviceguard for Linux will 24/7 monitor your DR, right, to see whether the data is current, whether the data is consistent, right? If it is not, right, if there's a, it can so happen, it happens very easily when you're doing DR that you may have a pause, the network bandwidth may suffer, right? But then Serviceguard will do the job of making sure that whatever is pending is synced up again, right? So first, you're taken care of continuous maintenance during a normal operation. Then when a failure occurs right now, this is the most important part, which is there's high stress in the system, you have to recover. Serviceguard will perform fully automatic recovery for your SAP HANA databases and across DR distances, right? And while doing that, it ensures that your data is in sync, it's current. It'll check your RPO, right? Your recovery point objectives, right? Whether it's meeting them or not. If you have any dual purpose instances, right? You may be running dev and QA instances in your DR during normal production, right? Nobody wants to keep the DR idle. So they run dev and QA instances, right? So Serviceguard will automatically shut that down and bring up your production instance onto your DR site. And finally, you can coordinate all this with your application tier. If you have an S/4HANA tier up there, you can consolidate it in the same cluster. So as your database moves, you can make sure that your S/4HANA or NetWeaver is also moving, right? Because it's not just enough to move your database. The application has to be available, so you can do all that in the same cluster, right? So if you just look at it, such complex tasks, time-critical tasks, all handled for you automatically, right? And with the most robust algorithms that will ensure that you have no data corruption. Now, let's say you did this recovery, right? We went to the next phase, which is how do you operate from the DR, right? Now, here again, we support up to 3 standbys, right? So you can have 2 full HANA database instances in your DR, which means that you can have full HA protection or full HA capability in your DR as well. So once you've recovered your DR site, even if one node fails in your DR, right, or there is some error that happens, you still have one more fail-safe in your DR, right, which you can automatically recover between it, right? And all of the data states, whether your database is running, all of this is automatically managed by Serviceguard, right? And that's, if you look at it from the customer perspective, right, you get the best possible uptime in such situations. You're removing any chances of errors because everything is handled automatically in a robust fashion. And just imagine the amount of operational overhead you're saving by having this taken care of automatically, right? And then not just that, once your primary now comes back, right? Your primary is back, you want to resume back into your operation. Serviceguard helps you do this with just execution of a few commands, right? It checks whether your primary is back, what is the state of your primary, what is the data state, and are you going back on it, right? And all of this is even automated, I would say, with a few commands, right? So you can fail back. So just imagine now, from having multiple manual or semi-automated operations in different phases, each one fraught with risks, right? Each one complex, is all taken care for you now with this new solution, right? And that's why we feel this is an offering, or Serviceguard for Linux Premium will add a lot of value to customer environments, right? It saves them so much time and ensures that they can keep their SAP HANA environments up and running, right? So that's all about Serviceguard for Linux Premium, right? And like I said, just to summarize, we are the industry first fully automatic high availability and disaster recovery solution that leverages, for your HANA multi-target environments, right? So you can now have multiple redundancy levels, all automatically managed. You can have up to 3 standby instances, which means that you can have full HA capability on your primary, automatic DR recovery, and then full HA again in your DR site. It automatically manages dual purposing. And not just that, it helps you, get back to your normal state of operation, which is once your primary production workload or your primary site is back, it helps you move back easily, with just a few commands, right? And you can consolidate your application stack, which is your S/4HANA or NetWeaver, with your database in the same cluster, and all of it can be managed by Serviceguard, right? And Something maybe I should have mentioned earlier. All our solutions, all of HPE Serviceguard for Linux solutions are developed in close partnership with SAP, and they're all SAP certified, right? And like I said, this is unique capability. And unlike our competition, who could maybe offer automatic recovery up to an HA pair, right? This offers the industry first fully automatic across DR centers. So to summarize, right, in HPE, you have world leaders in Hana, right? So you have the number one Hana IT provider in the world, right? We have 40% market share. We were the SAP HANA Innovators Award in 2017. And we have the largest install base of SAP HANA customers in the world. And to add to that, with Serviceguard for Linux, you get mission critical finance availability for your SAP HANA deployments. And just to summarize, right? So SAP HANA Premium is new, you're unique with it, right? But not just that. What makes Serviceguard for Linux the best possible high availability solution, or the leading high availability and disaster recovery solution for your HANA environments, right? So I would say, what are the top points? Why are we unique? I would break it again into three buckets, right? The same three buckets. The first one, Serviceguard for Linux can offer you the fastest recovery times for HANA in the industry, right? And how we do this is using a lot of technology, right? A lot of unique algorithms that help you make it the fastest. So in lab tests, we have observed that we can recover an SAP HANA scale-up instance anywhere between 30 seconds to 90 seconds, depending on the conditions, right? So that's really fast. And I'm saying irrespective of the size of the database, we have seen in lab tests that we are able to recover it in that time. And what are some of the top features that help us do this, right? First, preemptive takeovers, right? So Serviceguard for Linux has sophisticated algorithms, which can preempt the HANA index server restarts that typically happen. So whenever HANA fails, SAP tries to restart the index server a few times, right? And that takes a lot of time. We observed that in some customer environments that itself took like 30 minutes or more, and that's downtime they couldn't afford, right? So we brought in logic where we could preempt this and have Serviceguard do a takeover because it is faster in such situations. And another factor that really affected recovery times was, you wouldn't believe it, is to gracefully shut down your failing primary or your failed primary, right? You don't want to crash it. You want to gracefully shut it down so that you can go back and look at it for logs, right, to understand what went wrong. And that took, for some cases in some customer deployments, it took up to 4 hours where the databases were large, right? And there was a demand that how to avoid this in the sequence, right? So we introduced something called quarantine-based takeover, where we isolate the primary which is still failing, so that that can fail in isolation and take its own time. And parallelly, we can promote the standby to the new primary, right? So basically, we parallelize the operation, and we achieved amazing increase in uptimes with this, right? And this is again a very unique capability for Serviceguard, where by default it does this for your HANA environments. And then to add to this, we have our own advanced rapid monitoring systems, which is in addition to the standard SAP probing mechanisms that checks the different parameters. We can do deep SQL monitoring, which is like, everything may look fine, but your DB is hung, right? You would have seen that situation happen so many times. And Serviceguard has deep SQL monitoring that can query your database to find out whether it's actually able to serve a request or not, right? And like I said, unique capabilities that give you the fastest recovery times for HANA. The second strength of Serviceguard is advanced features that help you minimize your maintenance downtimes, right? I mean, downtime is one thing, unexpected downtimes happen, but maintenance is something every IT admin has to live with. They have to plan for it meticulously. It's going to take time. And how do you make sure, or how can we help in reducing the application downtime during such instances, right? So we have advanced features like rolling upgrade, which basically means that you can move your database instance to your secondary as you're doing maintenance on your primary, right? And like I said, you don't have to wait for the database to shut down. You can parallelize the takeover and the shutdown so that you minimize the impact of doing maintenance on your system, right? And another unique feature that Serviceguard has is that Serviceguard will send notifications to your application tier when the database is going into maintenance, so that your application tier knows that the database is going down. It knows how to query the requests that have gone to the application server, and it can gracefully handle the situation. So you don't have to manually go and shut down your application tier, right? It knows that there's a maintenance activity happening and it knows how to handle that gap, right? And finally, using live application detach, you can upgrade Service Guard itself without any downtime. And finally, the most important thing in high availability is assurance of data integrity, right? And we have a unique safe sync mode, right, which is something HPE developed, which works with the different HANA system replication modes and ensures that you will never have takeover until you have your desired RPO level, right? I mean, if the database is out of sync, you'll never have a takeover. So we have a unique mechanism that ensures data integrity when there's a takeover operation done. You also have a unique smart quorum, right? For example, you're in a DR scenario and you have a network loss between your primary and secondary. It's a very common thing. And if that happens, smart quorum will ensure that your primary always survives, right? And it's continuing to serve rather than doing a false failover, right? So it's a unique patented technology, smart quorum. We support all SAP features out of the box, right? Like multi-tenant databases, MCOS, MCOD, dynamic tiering, HANA Access Engine, and so on, right? And finally, to make it easy to deploy and use, right? So you have a GUI based deployment tool with just a few clicks in an assisted mode. You can deploy your Service Guard in your HANA instance. It'll automatically detect what SAP instances are running, and then it'll create the required packages to protect it. And finally, I think this one of the biggest strengths of Service Guard is it is self-optimizing timeouts, as we call them, right? So in several of our competition, right, or unlike our competition, you need to do a lot of calibration of the timeouts, right? How much timeout to give for an application, how much timeout to give for the cluster engine, how much timeout in different places, right? And it's like a lot of manual calibration. And it's very difficult to achieve a stable cluster, right? With Service Guard, you get self-optimizing timeouts. You don't have to timeout tune any of these parameters. Service Guard has inbuilt self-optimizing timeouts that will ensure that based on your deployment and times it's taking, it'll automatically tune itself to give you the right results, right? And you're not throwing up false positives while doing a failover. So in summary, a lot of unique capabilities, which is from our vast, from a rich history of our involvement with SAP and a partnership with SAP, understanding the application. We have been able to build these differentiators to give you the best possible availability for your SAP HANA environments. And finally, we are the one integrated HADR solution for the complete SAP stack, right? Certified by SAP in close partnership with HPE, right? You have solutions for S/4HANA, NetWeaver, scale up, scale out database, and multi-target, right? So we are the only product to have all those capabilities all in one solution, right? So you don't have to look for different solutions for different environments. And all of this is supported with Red Hat, SUSE, and also in VMware, right? You can even use it for vHANA instances. And finally, we have superior HANA Center of Excellence support from HPE. So it's a one-stop shop for you. So that's all I had. And thank you all for your time today. I hope it was useful, and I hope you could learn a bit about the product and its unique capabilities. You need any more details, you can download these slides and try out Service Guard for Linux. We have an evaluation copy available, which you can freely download and give it a try. And we also have a lot of resources here, which you can access to learn more about the product. Thank you all.